Hey. So we are up to chapter 27, verse 6. Rivka Amra Yaakov. Rivka says to Yaakov, her son, Lemor, saying, behold, I heard your father speaking to Esav, your brother, saying, Havio Itzayid, bring to me some game, and make for me delicious food, and I will eat it. So bring me some game and make for me delicious food, and I will bless you before God before I die. Not in this case. Not in this case. So if Hashem, before Hashem, what does that mean? Birshuto, with Hashem's permission. Because it doesn't mean literally in front of Hashem, because everything is in front of Hashem. So it means with Hashem's permission. Sheyaskim al yadi, he should agree to what I'm doing. V'atabini, pasuk chet, shma b'koli, says, now my son, listen to my voice, la'asher ani mitzaveh oscha, that which I'm commanding you. There's no Rashi there. Pasuk tes. If anybody wants a cookie, there are cookies right there. So he says, Lechna, go el atzon, go to the sheep, v'kachli misham. Here, let me open it. Oh, it says go there. Here. Lechna, go there to the sheep, the kachli and take for me from there 2 goats tovim that are good. Ve'aseh otam matamim la'avicha kasher ahev, and I will make for them delicacies for your father, like he likes. So Rivka tells Yaakov basically to go and bring the food and make it for Yitzchak, to do an end around the Esav. Rashi says, V'kachli, I'm just waiting to make sure. He says, V'kachli, take for me Mishalihim. So Rashi says they're actually Rivkas. They were already Rivkas. Ve'enam gezel. They're not actually. It's not actually stealing, because Sheken Kasav Yitzchak b'Ksuvah. Because Yitzchak had written for her in a Ksuvah. We told Shnei Gedayei Izim Kol Yom to take 2 goats every single day. Shnei Gedayei Izim, 2 goats. V'chi Shnei Gedayei Izim Hayam Ma'achol Shel Yitzchak. Is Yitzchak going to eat 2 entire goats? It's a lot. Hey, my dear friend Yochanan, is Yitzchak going to eat 2 goats? It's a whole lot of. Take the Chumash. We're on. What page are we on, Abba?
145.
We're on 145, John. 145. He says in the red Chumash. So he says, is he going to be able to eat 2 goats? That's too much. That day was Pesach. That's really strange. One of them he brought as the korban Pesach, and one of them he made into food. So basically, let's look at this powerful. The Sifsei Chachamim says that this whole thing of the brachos that took place on Pesach. So why? How do we know? because Yitzchak says, we have Chumashim on the table, and Yitzchak says, I'm worried I'm going to die. And so why was he worried he was going to die? Because he was born on Pesach. So therefore, since he was born on Pesach, he was worried he was going to die on Pesach. And so therefore, she said to Yaakov, take 2 goats. Rivka said to Yaakov, take 2 goats, one for the carbon Pesach and one to give to your father. It seems that's a little, that's a very, very interesting Rashi. We have to really try to understand what Rashi is saying here. Ka'asher ahev, like he loves, kitama gedi kitama tzvi, because the taste of the goat is like the taste of the deer. I never tasted deer, so I don't know. I don't really know that I ever had goat. So I'll take Rashi's word for it.
They're both tough animals.
They're very tough.
Tough.
Yeah, it's gamey, I guess.
Game. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the pasuk tells us we're in pasuk chapter 27, verse 10. We have the place Yochanan.
I thought I did. 145.
Okay. And she said to Jacob, bring the food to your father and he will eat it. So he should bless you before he dies. Vayomer Yaakov al Rivka, verse 11. Yaakov says to Rebecca, Imo, his mother, Hein Esav Achi. It's not going to work. My brother Esav is an Ish Sair. He's a hairy man. Manochi Ish Chalak. I'm a smooth man. Rashi says, Ish Sair Baal Seir, because Sair, technically speaking, is a goat. So here he says it means Seir, means a man with hair.
It also means a demon, no?
You could say Sa'ir Azazel or Shnei Seirim. You're right, that it's later on in the Torah, it's a reference to demons. So I guess we could read it that way, that Esav was a Ish Sa'ir, he was a demon man. I'm a smooth man. And he says, verse 12, Ulayi Musheni Avi, Vayisi Beinav Kim Ta'ateya. He says, maybe my father will touch me and I'll be in his eyes like a trickster, like a deceiver. Oh, they translated here as a mocker. Bring upon me a curse and not a blessing. Rashi says, like we see later on, like one who gropes in noontime. That's how we're going to be so dark. The world will be blind to us. It'll be like somebody who gropes around at noontime. But his mother said to him, don't you worry. Your curses will be upon me, my son. But listen to my voice. And go and take it from me. There's no Rashi there.
Bring it to me.
Kachli, yeah, take it from me. Vayelech, vayikach, vayavelu imo. And he went, and he took it, and he brought for his mother. Vatasimo matamim kasher ahev aviv. And the mother made for him these delicacies, like his father loved. Vatikach Rivka. As big day Esav, Rivka took the garments of Esav. Bena Gadol, her older son, Hachamudot. Asher itababayit. What is Chamudot? We'll see what Rashi says. Well, Chamudot means, but in modern Hebrew, it means the delightful one. We'll see what Rashi says it means. Rashi doesn't take that approach. The word Vatabeshet Yaakov benakatan. She dressed Yaakov in these garments. Dressing somebody in the garments in the biblical narrative is often associated with becoming king. It's like, yeah.
So she was coronating him here.
So to speak, yeah, that's really what's going on here. She was coronating him. That Rivka was the one who was coronating, like when Shmuel's mother makes for him a coat.
Typical Jewish mother.
Or David, what? David wears the garments when he goes to fight Goliath. So she was coronating him. She was choosing him. Rabbi Yosef, you were trying to say something? I cut you off.
No.
Okay.
No.
So what happens now? Oh, Jeff looking handsome here today.
Thanksgiving, what is going on there? It's just look nice.
Jerry, yes, you raised your hand. Jerry?
Yes, I have always been disturbed by using the animal hair to cover Jacob. It seems to me that even a blind man can tell the difference between human hair and the closely grown hair of an animal.
It's a very, very good question. How could he be so? How could Yitzhak not tell the difference? And you should be able to tell, but I guess this was like the rough story. She made it seem, she took some hairy substance, she made it seem like it. She knew what she was doing. If in Hollywood they could fool you, Rivka would know how to do it too.
And Esav was hairy from birth, so
What? There's all
Esav was
question
hairy
also.
from birth, so
Yeah,
it
that's
would
another-
have been that he didn't know what he is at the age of 63. He is.
No, but there's another point. That's a good point. There's another point that the Seth is asking. Was Yitzhak really fooled? And some say it's possible that he really wasn't fooled, that he knew what was going on the whole time. Let's read what Rashi. Let's try to see Rashi's approach. Rashi says Hachamudot. This means Hanikiot, the clean garments. We thought Chamudot means the rightful ones. Rashi says the Nikiot, the clean ones. Ketargimot Dach Yata, the pure garments. That's a very strange reading here. She took the pure garments. Davar Achar Chamudot as the coveted ones. Shechamar Osan min Nimrod, that he desired these garments from Nimrod. According to the Sivsei Chachamim, that these garments originally belonged to Adam, and then a lot of animals were depicted on them, and they supernaturally attracted animals. So therefore, it wasn't that, to answer Jerry's question, he didn't think that this was Esav's body. He said, "Oh, you're wearing Esav's coat." That's what it was. Remember, also, this is what now reminds us that Yitzhak is fooled with the coat by Yaakov, and Yaakov is, of course, going to be fooled with the coat by his children, dipping the coat in blood to make it seem like Yosef was dead. So this is the coat, the dressing, and the garment. Asher itab. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jerry. I didn't.
Yeah, that last interpretation I like. That Yaakov simply agreed that this was Esav's jacket or coat that he normally used. Good. I like that explanation.
I appreciate that. Okay, so this is Rashi. Thank Rashi, not me. And the Sivsei Chachamim. So that were with her in the house, Rashi says, "Velo kama nashim hayuo." So, but why did Esav have to leave his clothes in his mother's house? He's a grown man. He's what did we say he was? We said he was 63 years old. He was 60 years old. Oh, wait, if he was 63 years old, right? So if that's the case, Yitzhak was 63, so Esav was 60. Esav was 60. Yitzhak was 123, so Esav is 63. So if that's the case, why is he's a grown man? Why is he still using his parents' house as storage? So he had he had at least two wives. He could have left them with them. He left it with his mother. He was aware of their actions, and he suspected them that they are going to I guess either take the clothes or do something with them.
What's interesting is the contrast between when Avram asked Sarah to get two animals to prepare, and now Rivka
he said, what did Avram ask Sarah to do? Well, look at the pasuk. Avram says to Sarah, this is what Avram says.
Pick two animals.
Well, let's see what he says. Right, hold on. He says here, he says, Vayomer Ma'ari Shalosh Si'im Kemach Solas Lushi Siugos Ve'ala Bakar Ratzav Ram Veikach B'Makar Vayitin Veikach. It says he ben Bakar Asher Asa. Doesn't say he took two animals, but he did take a cattle. So, what's the pasuk? Would have been better if he said if Avram had said to start take two. That would have been better. So what happens next? Vatikach Rivkas. I know we did that. Ve'es oros gedayei ha'izim, and the skins of the goats. He'll be yadav. She dressed on his hands. Ve'al chelkas tzavarav, and on the smoothness of his neck. She gave the food and the delicacies that she made into the hands of Yaakov, her son. We see from here, by the way, that if you want to get somebody to do what you want, feed them. She fed Yitzchak, and he was tricked. And Yaakov come to his father. So his father says, I'm here. And he says, who are you, my son? Vayomer Yaakov el Aviv, Anochi Esav b'chorecha. I am Esav, your firstborn. Asiti kasher dibartu. I did just what you spoke to me. Kumna sheva v'achla mitzedi v'avor tvarchani navshecha. He says, get up, sit down, and eat from my game so that your soul can bless me.
And the last,
Right, yeah.
before we get off this topic, so according to this thing here, it says the last link in the transference of the first rights of the firstborn occurs when Yaakov decides, when Yosef is born, that he's going to transfer Reuben to Yosef. What does Yaakov do? Also, we say makes him
The
an
coat.
outfit, and it's outfit again is an act of investiture.
Exactly the same. Exactly
When he
right.
gives over the Bechoros. And Bechoros is not just a simple, we think of it Bechor, what's the big deal Bechor? Because historically the Bechor were the Kohanim
They had
until they sinned. So
and
they had special Kohen Gadol outfits.
exactly, and the Kohen was wearing the garments. Exactly right. It's an excellent point. Yes, very, very nice. Yes, Jerry.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand or hear or understand.
I'll repeat it. That our dear friend here, Meyer, was saying there's a very nice crowd here. We're studying on Thanksgiving Day, and the point is that this idea of the dressing people, because Meyer has a Torah Shlema from Rabbi Kasher and points out the connection with Ruvain was dressed, and also the Kohen Gadol was dressed as part of the Miluim ceremony. Very, very nice. But this Rashi here is one of the most troubling Rashis. What does the Rashi say? He says, Anochi Esav b'chorecha. He says, I am Esav, your firstborn. How could Yaakov say a mama shalai? Yaakov is lying. Yaakov Avinu is lying. So Rashi says he's not lying.
Well,
Wait, let's read the Rashi. Rashi says, Anochi amevilecha. I'm the one who's bringing it to you. The Esav hu b'chorecha, but Esav is your firstborn.
yeah,
Rashi basically cuts it out. He says, I'm not lying. I am who I am, but it's I. But Esav's your firstborn. So we know, you might think, okay, that's a lie, but people have gotten away with more. People have gotten away. So that's what he's trying to say. It wasn't a lie. What you're going to say, Jerry?
well, the text, the Torah text doesn't break it down with the commas as Rashi does. Secondly,
But the Torah doesn't have commas.
The trap is like what Jerry's saying. There's no separation there.
Yeah, but that's not the actual text of the Torah. The actual text of the Torah could be read this way. That's what Rashi says. I know
When the rabbis decided on the trap in the 9th century, they said not like that.
Yeah, so Rashi could be arguing with them.
okay. Secondly, Yaakov throughout his life is a trickster. So this is not surprising that he would fool his father.
Well, I mean, I certainly can see why you might read it that way, but Rashi's been very clear since the birth of Yaakov that Yaakov was not a trickster in Rashi's reading of it. Now Rashi reads Yaakov as somebody who is actually in the right, and he's the one who's being tricked.
He tricks his brother into the birthright by selling it with a pot of porridge.
The Rashi's reading of that story is that he did this because he knew that his brother couldn't handle the birthright because he would die because it was too dangerous for him to have it.
So
Seth has a question here. Yes.
No question. Rashi's saying that basically he'll go through the charade with the clothes, but when it comes down to it, when asked, he won't lie.
He won't utter a complete total lie that's
He's just okay with the deception,
yeah.
but a full out chakra,
Right.
he's not.
And we have that in the Talmud also. We had that in Tractate.
His words.
We have that in Tractate Nedarim recently too. That if the king is the king is coming to kill you, I mean somebody's coming to kill you, you're allowed to deceive them, but you can't say an utter outright lie. So that the Talmud does draw that distinction between creating deception versus literally saying a lie. I don't know what American law would be about that. Like when it comes to perjury, if there's a difference between creating an actual appearance, but not actually saying something. I don't know what the American courts would say. I have no idea, but you can make a case.
You could argue that you had the intention to deceive, which would be.
That's what the courts would look at?
Yeah.
Well, I remember there was once a president of the United States who created a falsehood, but didn't actually lie.
No, so there is a line someplace.
Right.
The argument is there's a line. But it makes me think of Abraham. He said that Sarah was a sister.
Right.
Then he said that's not exactly a lie.
That's a lie to save your life. You could do anything to save your life. Here
Right.
is deception, a lie for gain.
It was to save his.
Yeah. That's a very good distinction. There was the life was in danger. But Avram, when Avram says she's my sister, his sister can mean relative.
I know, he made the point, like, I wasn't lying exactly.
Right, she is my sister.
She's not my sister, but she's my sister.
Okay.
Did he violate Kibbud Aim? Because shouldn't he have first not listened to his mother? And isn't under the rules of Kibbud Aim, didn't he have a right to be honest? And you're saying he did ultimately, so I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question because the Gemara discusses that if your father tells you one thing and your mother tells you another thing, you're supposed to listen to your father, generally speaking.
That's correct.
But what we would have to say here is that
Seems like he's listening to his mother.
yeah. And so I have to see that question. That's a very good question. We'll have to look into that. Maybe there's no Rashi class tomorrow, but there's no Rashi discussion tomorrow, so I'll have to look into it and maybe come up with something. Yeah, but
Is he disobeying something his father said?
well, he's not. If you're tricking your father, even if you're not disobeying, that's not really the definition of kibbud avayim. But it's a very good point. I have to look at that. Yes, Jerry, were you raising your hand?
No, sorry, I
Accidentally. Okay, so the Rashi says that Yaakov says, I did kama dvarim kasher dibarte elai. I did many things like you told me, meaning to say he wasn't actually lying. He said in the past, I did many things just like you told me. Shiva, he says, get up, please, sit down, wash a mesav al shulchan, recline against the table. L'kach meturgam istachar. Okay, the next pasuk states, Vayomer Yitzchak al beno, mazeh mi'artel imtso b'ni, Vayomer ki yikra Hashem alacha lefanai. Yaakov's giving himself away here. He says, Yitzchak says to his son, why did you quickly, how were you so quickly able to find why were you so quick, my son? He said, listen, he said, God was helping me. Rashi says, God was helping nothing. Verse 21, Vayomer Yitzchak al Yaakov, Geshana V'amushcha b'ni, come close and I will touch you, my son. Ha'ata ze b'ni Esav imlo. Are you my son Esav or not? This is one of my favorite Rashis. By the way, the Rashis here are just so fantastic and beautiful. But this is one of my favorite. Oh, Jerry, you had a question.
Well, one of the explanations you gave is that the mother plucked hairs out of the goat skins to make them appear like human hairs.
Right.
But yet the pasuk says this was done very quickly. The father Isaac says, "Your mother didn't have enough time to pluck hairs out of the goat skins to fool me." So
Right. So it's how come you're so fast? Well, you know what? If
can't fly.
yeah, it's a very good question. But the point is, if you know what you're doing, you could skin the goat real quickly. You know, like if you're an expert, you could skin the goat real fast. Let me just read this Rashi. Rashi says, "Come close." Kishona v'amushcha Amar Yitzchak b'libo. Yitzchak said, "Ein derech Esav li'oshem shamayim shagar b'fiv." He says, "Sorry, I'm not accustomed to having the name of Hashem." Esav doesn't typically have the name of Hashem shagar b'fiv, fluent in his mouth. And this one says, Hashem, your God, arranged it. So he says, he noticed you're not talking like Esav, you're not talking like him. You're talking like Yaakov, you're mentioning God. And then we'll just say one last verse, and then we'll dive in Mincha. Rosh Chodesh, he says, Vayomer, Vayigash Yaakov Yitzchak Aviv Vayimusheu. Yaakov came close to Yitzchak, his father, and he felt him. And he said, one of my favorite psukim, he says, Vayomer, what does he say? Hakol kol Yaakov, vayadayim yedei Esav. You see, this is, Devir, I want you to always remember this pasuk. I remember when I was a little boy, he said, what did Yitzchak say when he felt Yaakov? This is the phrase you have to know. Everybody needs to know this phrase. Hakol kol Yaakov, vayadayim yedei Esav. The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esav. And look at what Rashi says. Kol Yaakov shemedaber b'lashon tachnunim. What is the voice of Jacob? He speaks in a lashon of tachnunim, a manner of a beautiful manner. Kumna, please rise. Aval Esav b'lashon kintoria diber. Esav spoke like a antagonist. Yakum avi, let my father rise. So you have to say, we all have to speak with the kol Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav. Okay, we'll stop the recording here. We'll have a mincha for Rosh Chodesh. Okay, Koyach, everybody. Thanksgiving Sameach.